Woe to the world because of scandals, for it must needs be that scandals come, but nevertheless, woe to that man by whom this scandal cometh. This is the word of the Lord in Matthew 18, verse 7, speaking vehemently against scandal. Yet, despite this stern warning, our world has been plagued with harrowing stories of religious scandals involving famous preachers and spiritual organizations. From a pastor who fathered a child with his brother's wife to Bishop T.D. Jakes' controversial association with P Diddy and a clergyman who embezzled $448 million from his congregation, these are 10 astonishing religious scandals that have shaken the faith community in recent times. The Lakewood Church refusing to accept Hurricane Harvey victims. The church has long been a beacon of hope and refuge for those in distress. However, in 2017, the Lakewood Church in Texas raised eyebrows when it initially refused to open its doors to victims of Hurricane Harvey. With a seating capacity of 16,800, Lakewood is the largest congregation in America, and many expected its spacious auditorium to be transformed into a temporary shelter for those affected. Instead, Joel Osteen, the senior pastor at the Lakewood Church, took to social media to offer prayers for those affected. His comments sparked a wave of criticism from people who believed that he and the church should provide more support to the victims beyond social media posts. As the storm raged on, the Lakewood Church released photos showing flooded hallways and parking lots, citing safety concerns. However, many social media users disputed these claims. Eventually, the Lakewood Church bowed to pressure and began housing hurricane victims. But critically, their change of heart was met with more criticism, especially from people who felt that the Lakewood Church should have reacted quicker to the plight of the victims. Mount Cashel Orphanage child sex abuse scandal. The Christian Brothers of Ireland are a prominent religious organization that operates hundreds of schools and orphanages across the world. In the early 1800s, they expanded their operations into Canada, where they set up several schools, including the Mount Cashel Orphanage, which would ultimately become home to one of the biggest sex abuse scandals in Canadian history. The controversy around the organization first came to light in 1975. At the time, a law enforcement agent listened to the testimonies of 24 boys who claimed that they had suffered physical, psychological, and sexual abuse at the orphanage. Confirming this grave indictment, a few Christian brothers also confessed to molesting children in their care. Yet, they went scot-free after the investigating officer was ordered by his superior to wipe out any sexual assault references in his report. Compounding this travesty, the provincial government colluded with the orphanage to transfer 6 offenders to other Vancouver schools between 1976 and 1983, effectively sweeping the allegations under the rug. But the truth couldn't be concealed forever. By the time the allegations resurfaced a few years later, over 60 victims courageously pressed charges against the Christian Brothers, prompting a formal apology and a combined compensation fee of $16 million from the organizations. Magdalene Laundries. Named after St. Mary Magdalene, the Magdalene Laundries were originally established as places of reform for vulnerable and wayward women. For many years, these institutions seemed to fulfill their mission, providing shelter and training for thousands of women before reintegrating them into society. However, in the early 1990s, troubling stories began to surface, culminating in a shocking discovery in 1993, a mass grave containing 155 bodies on the grounds of a Magdalene laundry in Ireland, operated by a Catholic order. This revelation ignited widespread outrage and led to extensive investigations, which uncovered the severe mistreatment many women endured at the hands of the religious sisters. Reports detailed that these vulnerable women were subjected to forced labor, physical torture, and verbal abuse. They were often deprived of food and water and were given new names while being isolated from their families. Consequently, This grand exposure led to the closure of the Dublin-based Magdalene laundry and the payment of $75 million in compensation by the Irish government. Earl Paulk. Back in 1960, Earl Paulk founded the Chapel Hill Harvester Church with his wife Norma Lucille and brother Don Paulk. Together, they nurtured a small congregation into a thriving community of 10,000 members. But aside from their large herd of followers, they built an entire business empire off their religious teachings. This includes 2 schools, 1 Bible college, a famous TV ministry with millions of viewers across the world, and an elaborate sanctuary worth $12 million. As the face of this empire, Earl Paulk was highly esteemed, earning respect from influential figures like Presidents Ronald Reagan and George H.W. Bush. However, his reputation crumbled under the weight of multiple allegations from women who accused him of coercing them into sexual relationships. The most damning revelation came from Mona Brewer, a former church employee, who exposed a 14-year affair with the famous televangelist. In a shocking admission, Earl Paulk confirmed the affair, and a DNA test revealed that he had fathered a son with his brother's wife. Just when it seemed the scandal couldn't get any worse, another lawsuit emerged, accusing Earl of molesting his own granddaughter. The preacher expectedly denied it, but the scandal haunted him until his passing in 2009. Gerald Payne's Ponzi scheme. Gerald Payne is the founder of Greater Ministries International and the mastermind of one of the biggest religious Ponzi schemes in history. It all began in the mid-1990s when he began peddling a divine investment scheme to his congregation, weaving a web of deceit between church services. Payne invoked scripture to convince his flock that every dollar invested was a direct offering to God. Tragically, around 18,000 members fell prey to his false promises, contributing over $500 million to the scheme. Unbeknownst to them, Payne was using their hard-earned money to fund his own extravagant lifestyle. He indulged in luxury cars, opulent homes, and lavish vacations with his wife Betty. But the long arm of the law finally caught up with the couple in 2018 when the IRS discovered a staggering $20 million in their joint account. This, alongside several complaints by investors, was enough evidence to prosecute Payne and Betty in court. The couple claimed that the money they received was a gift from their devoted followers. However, the judge saw through this flimsy excuse, and the truth was finally exposed. In the end, they were convicted of fraud, with Payne receiving a 27-year sentence and Betty receiving 12.5 years. So far, we've explored some deep and unbelievable scandals, but we've got even more damning and shocking stories to tell you. Before we reveal them, please hit the like button and subscribe to our channel to enjoy more insightful videos like this one. With that said, let's get back to the video. Robert Tilton's fraud scandal. Robert Tilton is another televangelist with a silver tongue who defrauded his congregation. But his method was much more sophisticated. Unlike Gerald Payne's coercive tactics, Tilton employed a more subtle approach. He urged parishioners to flood him with prayer requests, but there was a catch. Each request had to be accompanied by a seed offering. With his charismatic charm, it wasn't difficult to convince his followers. In one persuasive email, he wrote, "You don't buy God, but throughout the Bible, when people came to God with prayer requests, they always brought a quality offering." This clever manipulation allowed Tilton to live a lavish lifestyle, purchasing a $1.3 million oceanfront property in Miami, building 2 businesses, and raking in around $80 million annually from his direct mail campaign. However, after many years of fleecing innocent members, his deceit was eventually exposed. An ABC investigation in 1991 revealed that Tilton didn't pray over the prayer requests as promised. Instead, he discarded them in garbage bags, pocketing the accompanying checks and cash. This shocking revelation led to a series of lawsuits that crushed Tilton's ministry. Yet, incredibly, He relaunched his pastoral career many years later in 2003, preying on unsuspecting parishioners once again. P Diddy and Bishop T.D. Jakes. Sean Diddy Combs has dominated the headlines for bad reasons lately, and unfortunately for Bishop T.D. Jakes, his association with the music star has dragged him into the whole drama. Both men have a long-standing business relationship between them, one that saw the preacher launch a special program on Diddy's media platform. Diddy claimed the partnership would make God look cool, especially to kids who are not spiritually oriented. That seemed like a good idea, and despite the significant differences in their lifestyle, the collaboration ran without controversy. Well, that was until December 2023 when rumors started to spread that Pastor TD Jakes was one of the attendants of Diddy's wild gay parties. The bishop ignored the rumors, claiming that he would never use the sacred pulpit to address a lie. After a week of trending, the talks around TD Jake attending Diddy's wild gay parties died down. But a few months later, both men were at the center of some unpleasant news. This time, the preacher was mentioned in a lawsuit filed against Diddy P by Rodney Jones. According to the court papers, Jones claimed that he had irrefutable evidence that Diddy planned to leverage his relationship with Bishop T.D. Jakes to soften the impact on his public image of Cassie Ventura's lawsuit. Again, Pastor Jakes refused to address the stories, but after CNN released a surveillance video showing Diddy assaulting Cassie back in 2016, the preacher condemned the act without mentioning Diddy's name. Gross abuse by Catholic priests. The Roman Catholic Order is one of the most iconic religious bodies in the world. But over the years, the institution has been hit with sexual scandals, so much so that some members have had to reconsider their affiliations to the Catholic Church. Rumors of these scandals had been around for a while. However, it wasn't until 2019 when the Associated Press released a damning report that showed the true extent of the rot in the system. According to the investigation, nearly 1,700 priests of the Roman Catholic Church were accused of child abuse with credible evidence. Their offenses ranged from molestation to rape and outright sodomy. From the outcome of the investigation, it was obvious that the Catholic Order had failed in its obligation to protect the victims. And worst of all, they let the offenders get away with minor punishments despite the long list of evidence contained in the Associated Press report. The cult of TB Joshua. Nigeria is home to several prominent preachers and evangelists, but only a few could match the fame and reach of Prophet TB Joshua, the founder of the Synagogue Church of all nations. At the peak of his missionary work, he dined with kings and presidents and ministered to a congregation of over 50,000 people weekly. This includes foreigners who traveled from across the world to the West African country for miracles and prophecies. And from what the church showed the world on its Emmanuel TV platform, most people got the miracles they sought, albeit with some mild complaints of abuses and gross misconduct by the prophet. These allegations were on for over 2 decades, but they were often drowned out by the church's robust media machine. However, in 2024, a groundbreaking BBC documentary exposed the shocking truth about the Synagogue Church of all nations, revealing a trail of physical violence, torture, child abuse, sexual assault, rape, and forced abortions. Eyewitness accounts and testimonies from former disciples and workers painted a disturbing picture of a church marred by darkness and deceit. Furthermore, some former insiders alleged that TB Joshua's miracle healings were staged, leaving many questions unanswered. Unfortunately, the prophet died in 2021, meaning he didn't get a chance to respond to the allegations. The Vatican Scandal. As the headquarters of the Roman Catholic Church, the Vatican is seen as a sacred ground and a symbol of the core values of the Catholic faith, which include service, truth, and justice. However, in 2015, a trove of confidential documents leaked, exposing a web of internal conflicts, conspiracies, and financial mismanagement that shook the very foundations of the church. The crisis began in 2013 when auditors presented a damning report to Pope Benedict XVI, highlighting a lack of transparency in the Vatican's financial dealings. Furthermore, the auditors expressed worry about a perceived serious structural deficit within the Vatican. After going through the letter, the Pope called a meeting with the cardinals and delivered a 16-minute rant, calling for utmost transparency and judicious use of the Vatican's resources. Despite his strong stance, issues of financial mismanagement and top-level corruption continued to plague the bureaucracy. And ultimately, it contributed to Pope Benedict XVI's resignation in 2013. Like the other scandals we've highlighted in this video, the Vatican story contradicts the values of the Church. However, it's essential to remember that this incident does not define the true nature of the religious community. Because amidst these turbulent scandals, there are countless dedicated religious individuals and organizations tirelessly working to make the world a better place. Let us know what you think of our list in the comments below.